The clock is now running on the Playbook podcast, the podcast where you take a deeper dive into the game of business, leadership, teamwork, character, the things that drive your motivation and build dedication. When you get a good look at the game plan of great business leaders, you start to formulate your own playbook and your own rise to the top. Make your next play your best play. And now, here are today's game captains, Glenn Amarell and Andy Phillips. Let's go!
And welcome back to the Playbook podcast. I'm Andy Phillips. Joining me, as always, is Glenn Amarell, and we have a phenomenal guest on the show today. We're going to get into him here in a second, but as always, we start with our pregame warm-ups because unfortunately, me and Glenn don't come out the gate hot, so we have to warm up just like we're entering a game. So, Glenn, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Andy?
Doing well. I'm excited to get into this. This is going to be a great podcast. So,
absolutely. I'm looking
very
forward
excited on our end. And Glenn, I got a pregame question for you. You ready?
I'm ready.
You are newly married.
I am.
Talk about it a little bit, just real quick. You've lived a lot of your life in having to balance certain aspects between professional and personal. Now you add in more personal life, which is being married. How have you adjusted to time balance, especially with your job?
Well, with COVID brought working from home, so that helps with the commute. But my wife she would not have married me if I was like a little puppy dog following her around. So she's very driven herself. So she's always focused on something. So we each have our own things. And then we find the time to come together to, enjoy some personal time, which, as you know, Andy, in our business, there's really no off time because if somebody calls and they need something, we're on it. And that's right. How we, keep our business and keep our relationship strong.
You got that right.
So
you need to. A great answer.
Excellent. So, I got a warm-up question for you, Andy. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. In our business, we get a lot of no's. How do you handle no's? How do you feel about no's?
It's understandable. I think the problem is if you only expect yes, you don't know how to prepare for the no. And a lot of times in our business, especially, I'm just talking about our business specifically here, no means sometimes just not yet. It doesn't always mean no, it will never happen. It just means not a great time for X, Y, or Z. So for us, I take it more as a not yet. I don't take it as a hard no because things change in our business world. And if COVID didn't prove that, I don't know what will. So I would just say you can't take it personal and you keep it in the back of your mind. And maybe, you kind of self-scout a little bit and you look at yourself and go, how did I approach that? Should I approach it differently?
Right, exactly. And sometimes I think we've both learned how sometimes we have to say no. If it doesn't fit the profile and what we want to work with, we have to say no ourselves. So
exactly. Not everyone's going to be a fit for us, just like we're not going to be a fit for everybody.
Absolutely. Great answer.
With that being said, we are very pleased to welcome in our guest today on the show. His name is Joe Perpiglia. He is the president and CEO of the Associated Builders and Contractors, Eastern Pennsylvania chapter. Joe, we're very excited to have you on. Your position, your company is really critical, not only in our business, but also with everything going on in the world right now. Joe, give us a second. Tell us a little bit about you, and we'll get right into these questions after.
Awesome. Well, very excited to be on with you guys, and very excited for the opportunity to talk about ABC. Great that I can talk about myself a little bit, right? So I came into ABC about a decade ago. My career was in construction professionally. Also had a professional career in the music business, playing professionally. Yes, I was a slogging musician trying to make it. Did that till I was 30, 31 and said, this business side is probably a better route. And that led me to construction and, kind of led me here. It's, we could talk about the path. It wasn't that quick, obviously, but, that was kind of the path to where I am now. And finding ABC kind of landed right in my kind of belief system and didn't know that when I walked in the front door. But after 10 years, I can say that it was there when I walked in and it's still there now.
That's phenomenal. And it sounds like your background is going to be very unique, which tells me the next 25 minutes should be pretty unique as well for our listeners.
Might be.
We're going to kick this thing off. Our first half, sticking with the sports theme, our first half is business-focused questions mainly. And then our second half is going to be a lot more focused on leadership and your experience. So let's kick this thing off in the first half. We already talked about a little bit in the open. How has ABC specifically helped to navigate its members during the COVID-19 period, whether it be safety, whether it be regulations, advice? How have you guys really helped to navigate the situation with your members?
Sure. What a crazy, what I thought was going to be 2 weeks.
Right.
Wasn't 2 weeks. So initially we saw the news like everyone else. And the shutdown, we went CDC, what I called CDC overkill. So we said, what does the CDC recommend? That seems to be the standard. Then how do we take it up a notch? So when I said it was a crazy 2 weeks, it was recommended at first, shut business down, looks like about 2 weeks. We did it for a month right out of the gates. We had the blessing of our board of directors and some of our key members to do that. But I said, let's just make sure that we're on point plus. So we did all that. Immediately, because of our safety committee, we became a resource for the members almost day one, even a little before, as there were rumors of like, what is this? What's going on? Bam, shut down. So, our safety committee was buzzing the entire time. So a couple specific things that we did. One, we got very versed through those members and myself and my team on what the implications were. What is this thing? What is it going to do to the business community? How do we put on classes, not put on classes? How do we do our apprenticeship training, not do our apprenticeship training? All those things had to be vetted. So we were communicating with the members multiple times a day, which led to some outreach from local TV stations. NBC 10 was one, reached out to us very early on. I think by the time we got on, we were more in the April timeframe, but we were talking all through March on a couple things. One, again, the impact of the pandemic, how to adhere to all the safety guidelines. But one thing that the construction industry does, we're always looking at safety. So this was really right down the center of the plate, although this pandemic was not down the center of the plate. So the disciplines were there, but how did you then change them to adapt to this? So those are all the things we did probably in the first 30 days. Then the unique thing happened that we got very public. So whether it be social media or traditional media, like I mentioned, NBC reached out to us. We started pushing out the members what's happening with the business community. That in turn fed our social media. So you can kind of see the cycle. So once that happened, like my LinkedIn went from maybe 1,500 connections to 3,000, it like went off the charts. Our social media, people started to pay attention. If we put something out, all of a sudden our open rates were huge. So It was great, validation that we were doing the right thing. And I cannot take full credit for this whole, this next statement, but, between, we represent mostly what's called open shop, non-signatory companies, but in coordination with, and I don't want to say direct coordination, I think we're both on the same path, that you look at the signatory side of the labor pool and us, we were both pushing to say construction is essential. It's got to be safe. We're safe. Here's how we do it. And we want to be back to work. And it was a very, very quick press conference line that came from Governor Wolf. And it was in response to a question of, is it true construction's going back on May 1st? So if you go back and find that, you'll see it was very quick. And I will say the efforts that a lot of our members put into that, and everybody across labor, everybody in the construction industry locally and around the state was pushing for that. And it was a nice, quick validation. And of course, then my phone exploded. Is that true? Is it really happening? Yes, it's really happening. And off we go. So, that's where we've been ever since. And
I can say
we've been doing well.
I'm a part of the safety committee. It's been incredible from day one of this. That committee has been on it, and the conversations have been so educational. I know we got the chance to speak. Our agency got the chance to speak about the risk side of it and what we recommend. So it's been phenomenal. So that's a great point. Yeah,
and we tried to make it holistic. So it wasn't just how do you operate safely, but what are the implications on contracts? What are the implications if someone comes up positive? What do you do? And honestly, I saw some of those safety committee meetings as being therapeutic, because we were just a little bit panicked, but our job is to say, we're going to make it, but yeah, it's going to be difficult. And, it had its difficulties, and, it still does, but as we move closer to a vaccine and, this thing changes, and again, knock on wood, that it goes back to what we remember as normal.
Absolutely. That's great. Well, first off, I got to say that I'm a little bit, we could do a whole podcast on how jealous I am that you're a musician and I have zero talent, but I'll stay on target here. My question for you is, I know this is an ongoing issue, something that's close to your heart. How do you entice the next generation into the trades through your workforce development programs?
Sure. Well, here's the thing. The trades are not for everybody, right? So this is a little bit of a flip of a very old message. It was the belief that, hey, if you don't go to college, hey, look at this thing you could do. Mm-hmm. And it's really not that way. It never really was. But, it takes a lot to kind of change that perception, even to the counselor level at a high school, parents even, to say, you have to have a certain aptitude to do construction and be in the industry. So it's perception changing a little bit, but it is also what is true in the past, true now. It's a very physical sport, so to speak. You've got to be in shape for it, both mentally and physically. And you have to be prepared. So our workforce development committee does those things, right? So we're going out to the schools. Our construction alliance now is almost up to 50 schools and or partners, whether you be a school, a career and tech institute, where we're looking for ones that are kind of already in the pipeline. And then also, if you're not in the pipeline, put our hand up. Say, you know what, this is an industry that could work for you. And the other thing that's not widely publicized is it doesn't mean you're in the field on a day like today, where I have to wear a turtleneck because it's 18 degrees outside. You're not always working outside. You may start there, and it's great to start there. And I can get into that a little bit too. It's great to start in the field and be familiar with the field. But, there's business development people at a construction company. There's a safety officer at a construction company. There's accounting at every construction company. So, it's not just, I'm in the trades, I'm in the field, and I work there until my body gives out. Some love that, right? Like athletes, they love that. But some go on to do other things. And touching back on the point I was making is that most CEOs of our members, they were in the field. They learned the trade from the ground up, and then they had the business acumen to then, either spin off from a company, start their own, or rise up to a VP of construction and stay within a company where they started. And I'm kind of proof of that. I kind of came at it a little bit different. I worked for a very large contractor early in my career. My father gave me a real important lesson. He said, Joe, you're working with construction guys, but you're on the PM side. You better go out and get dirty. So I made sure I went out and got dirty, because
right.
You lose a lot of respect if you're the guy in the back on, you should be able to do that in 5 minutes.
No doubt.
And they go, yeah, right. Like, job suit, we're not doing that. So you go, yeah, let's go out and look at the real world stuff. So it's not to be cliche about it. It's it's a very hands-on industry, of course, but there's many facets of the industry. So,
no doubt.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's start of the road when you first come into the trades and then get out into the field.
Well, Joe, so far, I got to be honest, you've been incredible, and we're already at halftime. That's so you're the dream guest, by the way, someone who can take 2 questions for the full first half, because you're so detailed in your responses. We do appreciate that. But we are now at halftime. The way we do halftime here is let's cut the business out. Let's get to know Joe.
All right.
Joe, it is your classic 10-question speed round.
Got it.
So quick answers. We're moving on. If you have anything just to add, feel free. But are you ready for this? Are you ready for halftime?
I am ready for halftime. Hit it.
You're a Temple grad.
I am.
Favorite Temple athlete of all time, if you have one?
Watch this spin. Not a Temple grad. 2, maybe 2. I'll give you 2. One close to Temple, Joe Frazier. His gym was very close to Temple University.
Okay.
But my other is Muhammad Ali. So you can kind of see where some of my sports love is in boxing.
A little pugilist.
Absolutely. You got to give it to Ali.
That's awesome.
For the one reason. It's not just in the ring either.
All right.
That's right.
Dream car. If you had
1958 Chevy Impala convertible.
Do you have a color in mind? I know you do.
Triple black.
Okay. All right. If anyone out there listening, Joe, Christmas gift for your boss, maybe, right? Kristen?
Well, let me tell you something else. Quick aside. Okay, I know it's halftime. I'll go quick. That was my father's first car. He sold it when he was like 22. Found it, didn't rebuy it, and we don't know where it is, but I do have the original owner's card. So, yeah, I am I'm on the hunt. I'm on the hunt.
Let me know if you ever get that. I want to see it.
All right.
Favorite sports team?
Philadelphia Eagles.
Dream vacation?
Ooh. You know what? I think I took it on my honeymoon, Cabo San Lucas. So dream check.
There you go.
Yeah.
Those are the best dreams, the ones you can actually check off.
Yeah.
You're wrongly convicted for something and you're now on death row. Your death row meal is?
Oh, man, that's tough. Linguine white clam sauce.
Oh.
Garlic bread. Throw it in there.
Oh, yeah. That's comfort food as well.
Very much so.
Comfort before the death.
If you're there, you're going to need it.
Yeah. All right. The best book you've ever read?
Ooh, that's a lot. There's many. Good to Great was one. Really liked. Man, second to that, 7 Habits I like, and I'm not trying to make it sound like it's all business. I read The Irishman, but let me tell you, that ain't real. Yeah, but
was the movie based off that?
What's that?
Was the movie based off the book?
The movie was based off of that, and in my opinion, was not an accurate representation of what I was.
Okay. All right. We got 2 more questions. Your family or whoever is near you who you normally spend your weekends with is out of town. How is Joe spending his weekend?
In the man cave, surrounded by a lot of guitars and making a lot of noise.
Okay. No one to tell you to keep it down.
No way.
And finally, last question at halftime before we get to the second half. What is your most hated food?
Man.
Could be a condiment. Can be a specific food item.
Man, I got to tell you, I am a good eater.
There's got to be one thing, right?
Yeah, I got to be one thing. I mean, I don't love carrots, but I can handle them.
I love it.
I only have 2 things myself.
What do you got, Glenn?
No coconut and
Okay.
no root beer.
No
Okay.
root beer.
No.
Wow.
Cool.
All right. All righty. Well, hey, let's get into the second half. I know Glenn's going to kick this thing off again. These are going to be more leadership and experience focused, and we'll see how many we can get through. We love your details so far.
All right. Well, Joe, you've been the president and CEO of the ABC since, I guess, 2016. What skill set helped you get and retain that position?
Well, it's funny. Becoming president, like anything, you think you know it before you start it, and then you go, "Oh, wow! Look at all that. There's a lot more to it." What allowed me to get it? I was the membership person here for 5 or 6 years before I got the position, so I was pretty well known. Many of the things that I wanted to do here at ABC were in play. So, a couple things. One was an expansion into the Lehigh Valley, or re-expansion. We had been 2 chapters back in the day. We combined into one. I'd gotten to know a lot of the members. The Lehigh Valley was really popping at that point, needed to have an office built there and a training center, which I was able to start talking about before 2016. Opportunity came to be president. I went for it. And I really felt obligated to go for it because there was a lot of things that I said to the members that they agreed with that I thought, boy, I'm obligated to take the next step. Because what if someone were to come in and go, I see it differently, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Right.
So that was really the driver for me. And what allowed me to keep it is it's really, I think, part of my personality. So you step in, you take a bite, and you go, wow, I bit off more than I could chew, maybe in certain things. But once you say it, you got to do it. So you work 20 hours a day, and I definitely did it to the point of exhaustion a couple times. But that's what you do, right? So that, I think, allowed me to stay relevant, even till now, even with COVID, and I will say it's a little challenging because the pace has slowed with COVID.
No doubt.
I find it very nerve-wracking. But things like this, funny enough, I was going to mention innovation a little bit. 10 years ago, maybe a little less, maybe 8 years ago, when we were traveling all over Northeast PA, Lehigh Valley, our main office then was still, one of our offices now is in East Norton outside of Philly. That was the only office. And we were, staff was driving all over. I was driving all over. And I said, if you just did video conferencing, it'd be like a no-brainer. You wouldn't even, people come to a committee, they don't even have to leave their house.
Right.
You can't do that, Joe. I mean, that's
amazing.
People have to be on committees. They got to come together. They got to be, and I believed it, but I said, yeah, but you're making people drive 2.5 hours for an hour-long meeting. Their day's gone. Maybe they would do it if they didn't have to put out the effort. So
ahead of your time.
Funny enough, February last year, I said, look, why don't we just do it with the board now? Because the board has Kingston, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. People aren't driving to board meetings.
Right.
It's inconvenient. Or you can meet in the middle, but let's just try doing a video conference for one of them in February. So in February, they all left. All right, Joe, we're going to do it. Let's do it. Great, we're going to do it. Well, what happened 2 weeks later? Everybody got forced to do it. And I thought, well, proof of concept. So stay relevant, stay tenacious, stay on it. The last thing I would say is don't ever ask anybody that's on your team, to do something that you haven't done 10 times, because you just don't have any credibility when you ask them to do it. So you got to get in there. And, like I said, back to getting dirty, right? Doesn't always mean jumping in a pit like I used to, but you got to be able to get in there and do it.
Did you watch The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary?
I did not.
So that what you just said was almost verbatim what he said about.
Oh, no shit.
He never.
Sorry, am I allowed to curse on this thing?
You're good.
You can bleep me.
You're Michael Jordan.
He never asked anyone to do anything that he wouldn't do himself, and that's such a key to being a leader. So
I'm going to watch it. It's on my Netflix list, so now I'm going to go and watch it.
It's absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it.
Good
All
stuff.
right. So next question here. Every person I know has a rock bottom as a professional, and some are steeper than others. So there's no shame in being at the rockiest of rock bottoms or not having a big one, but you still had something you had to overcome, I'm sure. And you always learn something about yourself in that position. And the fact that you're where you are now tells me you clearly made it out of that rock bottom and thrived. Explain to us professionally, what was your rock bottom and what did you learn from it and what did you take away from it now?
Okay, so funny enough, that is the ABC story for Joe, right? So here's what happened to me. Not unique, I don't think. I took a new job in 2007 outside of construction for one of the first times ever. It was a series of 2 jobs. So it was in advertising and marketing, and it was in the software side of things. And I got kind of cherry-picked, headhunted because of construction background. So I went to one company, stayed there for a year, kind of got my feet wet, went to the second company. In that time, I got the job, got engaged, and got married in 2008. And you can go back and look at the dates because I've definitely done this. I got married on September 21st of 2008. So a week prior to that, so on the 16th, 17th, and 18th, while I was getting ready to have a grand old time, the world was in crisis, but, really didn't know it. Went away to Cabo San Lucas, came back from that honeymoon on Tuesday, and Friday got pulled into a conference room and said, thanks for playing and see you later. And I will tell you that when I had been at other companies and watched that happen, I always thought, what a nightmare that must be. I mean, to have no income coming in. Now, I compounded that with having a house, tearing it apart, starting a new job, getting married, coming home, Tuesday thinking, got a lot of work to do, and Friday going, how am I going to do it? So I ended up having to finish the work on my house myself. So I started that. I kind of bided my time through 2009 because my entire network was either laid off, lucky to be where they were, or not picking up the phone, right? So there weren't many leads coming in. But I finally did get a lead from that major contractor that I worked for early in my career. Guy got me into a very small contracting firm. And the owner of that firm said, I want to make this company grow. How can we make it grow? Here's what I do to make it grow. And I noticed that a lot of people we bid to were ABC members. But I didn't know what ABC was. So this tells you, I'm not the smartest guy, but I definitely find a way. Funny enough that one day, going a different way home from work, I go down Germantown Pike instead of the back way, and I pass the ABC office, and I do that a couple times, and I go, maybe it's time I go in there and figure out how to join this thing. So I go back to my owner, a couple grand a year. He says, no way. I work on it, start to convince him. And then some folks internally said, you might make a good VP of membership. Like, you might be a good recruiter, which led me into ABC. I brought my company with me as I came in. And then eventually, about 10 years later, got me, it would have been 7 years later, got me here in this position. And but I got to tell you that if you haven't gone through it, when you get laid off and you've piled a bunch of things on, so you kind of run yourself out, you stretch yourself really far and it snaps. That to me was rock bottom. That was pretty brutal. And again, and maybe it's personality, I just said, well, buckle up. We're going to make it work. But it was hard.
Well, from your experience and from your favorite athletes, we can tell you're a fighter.
Love that. Love Rocky Balboa.
Rocky.
That's my mantra.
Dun, 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 dun.
That was in our first
podcast. My house,
podcast.
and you'll see a lot of Rocky stuff. So
Yeah, my face sometimes looks like Rocky's did.
my voice does usually. By the way.
Right? Yeah, mine too.
You.
So, Joe, we're going to go right to our Hail Mary. So we're going to have Andy's boy Aaron Rodgers here going to toss one into the end zone. So the Hail Mary question today for you, Joe, is, as the last question or the play of the game, if you had to give 22-year-old Joe one key to success or advice, what would that be?
Interesting. That's a great question. If I had to give advice to the young me, one, get yourself in focus, right? And maybe that comes with a little bit of age. Get yourself in focus. Had I done a lot of the things that I ended up doing earlier, I'd be further along than I am now, right? So I guess that's just a classic old Joe talking to young Joe.
You're right.
It was definitely that focus. Pick something and go with it. The other thing, it doesn't entirely contradict what I'm saying here, is that I would have maybe told the 22-year-old Joe, you love music that much? Well, then cut all ties, move out of your house, burn the boats, and go do it and see what happens. My father wasn't that way, and God bless that he wasn't. At the same time, I still have that love for doing all that. Can't do it as much as I used to. Under the pandemic, you can't really play out at all anymore. But that's probably what I would have said is, if you focused longer than you're kind of daydreaming, you'd be killing it. Not doing it.
More, as they say in Home Depot, more doing, right?
More doing. Just do it. Nike.
Right. You
put some action to
it.
Your whole life and never do. So that's a great answer.
Yep.
Andy, I'll let you take it home.
Joe, you were phenomenal. We obviously want to thank you for coming on, but we're going to give you 30 seconds to a minute here. Sell ABC. This is a little free advertisement for you. Tell people how to get a hold of you guys. And obviously, we hope this helps your business as well. So here's a platform for you.
Awesome. Well, first I'd say, the mainstay, go to our website, right? Get onto our website, check us out. It's abceastpa.org. So abceastpa.org. Main office number 610-279-6666. Got that out of the way. Okay, let's get into what ABC really is, because there's a lot of misnomers out there about ABC. That we're an anti-union organization. That's one I love to hear, which we are not. We are just a fair and level playing field for everybody, no matter where you go. Everything should be fair and level. And that does mean whether it's legislative, whether it's bid practice, no matter what it is, you really shouldn't have to worry about, hey, I graduated from school and I got involved in the trades, and hey, I went to the union. Well, hey, I didn't. I went to private employer. Well, that shouldn't affect how and where you bid and how those things are awarded and all of the things that kind of come with, a lot of what ABC does. And I certainly get it. Sometimes it looks like if we oppose a piece of legislation or it may appear that we do not want to do a certain activity within the legislative process or whatever that may be. sometimes it gets looked at as, oh, you guys don't like to train people, which I find ludicrous. You folks are anti-union. No, we're not. What we are is that you should be able to be awarded something based on the merit of your company or labor pool. If you are the best at it, you are the safest, you prove that, you have a track record, sky's the limit. And let me be real. I know that that's not exactly the way it is. So, that's why there's a bit of that battle. But, I always say that when you look at the broad range of construction, you look at the industry, I sometimes find it silly sometimes that there's a lot of this when there could just be, hey, there's just two ways to be employed. Pick one.
Absolutely.
So that's what we do. We try to get that out there. And again, once that's done, get into the industry, be successful. Sky's the limit. And let me tell you, with some of the salaries that guys get paid and the ladies, get into construction because there's money to be made.
That's right.
And if you're trained, you're making it, no doubt. So, that's the other thing. If I got my kind of 1 minute pitch here, it's a lucrative career path. And if you think that you're out in the cold making nothing, that's just not true. Period. So
good answer.
Yeah, thank you. Get in touch with us. That's what
absolutely.
I'm saying.
And I can even say this too, and I want to vouch for ABC as for 2 years, I've been involved in the safety committee in the Lehigh Council. And for somebody who is new to the insurance industry 2.5 years ago, you wouldn't think, oh, why are you going to ABC? The amount I learned at those safety committees over the last 2.5 years, and to put my head in the mind of the people I ultimately want to talk to and help, with their risk management program, it's incredible. So you don't just have to be, in the construction and building field. So Joe, we appreciate it. It's Joe Perpiglia. Go follow him on LinkedIn. When we post this, we would love to see your feedback and your comments. And we really appreciate Joe's time. He gave us more than enough. And this is a guy we could have probably done 4 or 5 segments with. He was that good. So Joe, thank you. For Andy Phillips.
And I'm Glenn Amaro.
We hope everybody had a great game.